The development of Indian literature, languages and composition got promotion in Delhi Sultanate. Two forms of Delhi language, Khadi Boli and Brij Bhasha, began to be used for writing literature. Many devotional songs were composed in these languages. Many heroic poems and stories were composed in Rajasthani language, which is similar to Hindi and Gujarati. The heroic words like Allah Udal, Vaisal Dev, Raso were popular at that time. A book called Chandrayaan, written by Mullah Daud, is the oldest book in Awadhi language. However, the critical appreciation in the ancient book was still written in Sanskrit language. So what are they saying is that your Indian languages, that is your language of Hindi, your Gujarati, your Kannada, Tamil, your Marathi, Rajasthani, Marwadi, all these languages started developing when Delhi Sultanate came into power. Delhi Sultanate is what? Mainly your Muslim rulers. When they came into power, these languages developed a lot. Lot of poems, lot of authors, they started writing in Hindi language, in Gujarati, Marathi. So basically, when Delhi Sultanate came, lot of poems came in that language, lot of poets, authors, lot of songs were written in that language. Okay, Khadi Boli and Brij Bhasi began to be used in writing literature. So these are the two forms of languages that were there. Okay, at that time Khadi Boli and Brij Bhasi. These were mainly used in UP side. Okay, Delhi and UP side, these languages are used. Now so you hardly find people speaking in Khadi Boli and Brij Bhasha, but this is mainly the language of the UPites. Okay, people who stay in UP. So lot of literature was written in Khadi Boli and Brij Bhasha. Many devotional songs એટલે જે આપણે ભગવાનને પૂજવા માટે જે songs લખીએ, those are called as devotional songs. So lot of devotional songs were composed in the languages. What languages? Your North Indian languages, your Khadi Boli and Brij Bhasha mein songs were composed. Many heroic poems and stories were composed in Rajasthani language. Many Hironi stories, many poems were written in Rajasthani language. Okay, and Rajasthani language, that is your Marwadi, is very common like Hindi and Gujarati. You will be able to understand if you hear people speak. Okay, there were in the poems and in the songs, there were words that were used like Allah, Udal, Visal Dev, Raso. So all these words were written in the poem. There was a book which was written by Mullah Daud, and this book was called as Chandrayaan, and it was written in Awadhi language. Why was it Awadhi language? Because there was a place in India which was called Awadh. Okay, and e Awadh je jagya hati and je language Awadh ma bolati, that was called Awadhi language. So it is the best book which is written in Awadhi language. Okay, however, જે critical appreciation છે, જે book ને appreciate કરવા માટે જે લોકોએ લખ્યું છે, all that is in Sanskrit language. The Persian was the language of the court of Delhi Sultanate. So Persian language, Persian language હતી, એ mainly court language હતી. That is, રાજા મહારાજાઓ પોતાના સભામાં જે language બોલતા, એ language mainly Persian હતી. Okay, and that is why it was called as the court language of the Delhi Sultanate. Consequently, many Persian words are seen in Indian language. This is why many Persian words are used in your Hindi language, and we use lot of Persian words in our everyday life also. Many historians emerged out during this period. Okay, during the time of Delhi Sultanate, many historians came out. Historians are people who write the history. Like let's say કે હું અકબરના જમાનામાં જન્મી હોત અને હું હિસ્ટોરિયન હોત, તો હું અકબરના બારામાં લખત કે અકબર વોઝ અ ગ્રેટ કિંગ, અકબર આવો હતો, એની એડમિનિસ્ટ્રેશન આવા હતા, એને આટલી વાઇફ્સ હતી. સો આઈ કીપ એન અકાઉન્ટ ઓફ એવરીથિંગ. સો લોટ ઓફ હિસ્ટોરિયન્સ came up during the time of Delhi Sultanate. Okay, Ziauddin Burani wrote Tariq-e Firoz Shahani, which gives a detailed account of the region of Khilji and Tughlaq kings. He also wrote a book on political theory called Fatwa-e Jahangiri. So there was a very famous historian whose name was Ziauddin Barani. Now this Ziauddin Barani, he wrote two books. Okay, first book is Tariq-e Firoz Shahi. Now this book talks about the Khilji rulers, it talks about the Tughlaq rulers, okay, people who Khilji rulers and Tughlaq rulers. This book mainly talks about these two rulers, okay. And another book which he wrote was Fatwa-e Jahangiri, okay, which talks about the political theory, okay, politics na barama it mainly talks about. The second book. The most outstanding literary figure of this period was Amir Khusro. Now this guy is very important, Amir Khusro, okay. The most outstanding literary figure at that point of time was Amir Khusro. He was a poet, a historian and a mystic saint. Saint etle Sadhu Mahatma, okay. And he also composed lot of music. He was a disciple of Nizamuddin Aulia. So એના ગુરુ કોણ હતા? નિઝામુદ્દીન ઓલિયા. એને બહુ ફોલો કરતો. નિઝામુદ્દીન ઓલિયાની દરગાહ બી છે અને એનું દિલ્હીમાં છે નવાઝુદ્દીન ઓલિયાની દરગાહ. ઘણા મુસ્લિમ્સ નવાઝુદ્દીન ઓલિયાને માને છે, ઓકે. સો એના ગુરુ કોણ હતા? નિઝામુદ્દીન ઓલિયા. He wrote the Ashika and the Na, Sifire, Kirtul, Zadia, the Khazanuddin ul Fatah and several other words of poetry. So આ બધી એની poems હતી. Try to remember any two poems which Amir Khusro wrote, okay. And several other works in poetry. He took great pride of his being an Indian and praised India as earthly paradise. So he was very proud of the fact that he is born in India, that he is an Indian, okay. And he said ki India is a place which is paradise. Paradise એટલે heaven on earth છે, okay. He praised India's flora and fauna. Flora and fauna એટલે vegetation, natural beauty, its beauty, its building, knowledge, learning, okay. India was very rich in science, it was very rich in cultural beauty, it was very rich in mountains and all that. So Amir Khusro praised all those things. He strongly believed that in many respects of a sense Hinduism resembled Islam. So he said that Islam and Hindu dharma ઘણી બધી similarities છે, whereas Hindu and Muslim religion is very similar to each other. He considered Hindwali, the Hindi spoken around the region of Delhi, his mother tongue, okay. So ई જમાનામાં Hindi no બોલાતું. Hindwali was the term used for the people who spoke Hindi, okay. So he said that my mother tongue એટલે મારી માતૃભાષા is Hindi only. Though he was a Muslim, he said that my mother tongue is Hindwali or Hindi, okay, which was spoken by the people of Delhi. He composed verses in many languages. He wrote number of bilingual quatrains and verses in Hindi and Persian. The healthy tradition stated by him continued for centuries after him. So he wrote his poems, he wrote his quatrains, okay. Quatrains are also like poems only. So mainly he wrote his poems in two language, bilingual એટલે બે language માં, that is he wrote in Hindi and Persian. And for a very long time people really appreciated Amir Khusro and his great works.